Hey everyone, thanks for joining the Digital Marketing Europe conference. My name is Sahara and this is the Tools and Channels track. And today we're speaking with Simon, who's going to be talking to us about trust as a competitive advantage in digital marketing. Simon, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Sahar. It's great to be on the show or on the conference. Really looking forward to this.
Excellent. Simon Beyer is the partner at Engager, who will be speaking about this really interesting topic today. Can you tell us a bit about Engager?
We are a digital agency, mostly working out of the Nordics. I'm based in Stockholm, but we also have clients around Europe, and we are focusing mainly, I would say, on social media, but also on other digital channels. So that's what me and another 80 people do on a daily basis.
Fantastic. And trust, I mean, it's such an interesting topic. Customers today have become so sarcastic and suspicious of brands, that overpromise, use too many superlatives. It's going to be really interesting to hear how this can be used as a competitive advantage and a little bit about your experience. So we're looking forward to your talk. Before I hand it over to you, I just want to remind everyone that Packet and Manning are giving away free ebooks to the most engaged attendees. So please do ask your questions, rate the session afterwards, leave comments, and so on. We're looking forward to your feedback. And over to you, Simon.
Thank you very much. And hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Here in Stockholm, it's a snowstorm, not too enjoyable, but we're coping. And just as Sahara was mentioning here in the beginning, I also believe that trust, both out of a personal but also out of a business perspective, is super interesting. And the reason why I think this is interesting is due to several factors, but one is that we live in a super technical, and I would also say very complex and a non-linear world. I mean, the world that we are facing today and that we're trying to do great things in, that world is so different from when we grew up. So other aspects will, at least I believe that, come into play when it comes about building competitive advantages. And it will not only be AI. If you are active on LinkedIn, you've seen that everyone today is an AI professional. And some people say that, tech and digital solutions will be the solution for everything. But I think the technology is great as a tool, but in the end, it's about us as human beings that need to actually do these things, and we need to do it together. So we need to trust each other within the organizations we are. And then we also need to acknowledge that trust is an important thing towards our customers and towards the outer world. And by the end of this session, I hope that you have gotten a bit more knowledge, or at least highlight for yourself the importance of trust. And if I've done a really good job, maybe you also start to think about how you as a person and how you as a brand can increase trust through various ways. But I will kick off this presentation not talking about myself, but instead I want to go over to you guys and ask you, and you don't need to answer in the chat or anything, but just ask yourself, who do you trust? And then in a personal way, like who are your friends? And I think you'll come with that pretty fast, like a person. But then also ask yourself, why? Why do you trust this person? And let's take a minute or 90 seconds to think about that. If you have already thought about someone, then you can start thinking about a brand. Is there a brand that you trust, and why do you trust that brand? This is a big question, and I'm asking this question because I want you to start thinking in terms of trust, and also thinking reasons why you do trust trust different people. And in my case, I trust this woman very much. Not the bear, but the woman, and that's my mom. And why do I then trust her? Well, for once, I mean, she's always been there for me. So she's shown that I can rely on her, and also she's taking a lot of actions to prove that she actually cares for me and that she wants my best. And those two variables, I think, are important to remember. Trust is based from emotions, meaning how you make other people feel, but also from actions, what you actually do to show that you care about the other person. And it can't only be one of these, it needs to be both of them. So I trust my mom. That's great news for everyone. What does that have to do with you guys? Well, going back to the context of where we live, we are facing and experiencing kind of a rapid change where it used to be that automation of factories were the big thing. If you look into a modern factory today, you barely see any people. Instead, you see robotics and AI solutions. And with ChatGPT and loads of other versions of AI, that movement of automation also moves over to us as human beings. It hasn't happened yet, of course, but it will slowly happen. And when more and more things are automized, it becomes even more important that you as a brand and as a person actually build trust towards the people you want to make business with, because otherwise all brands will offer the kind of the same solutions, and then you can only compete on price. But if you also manage to build trust, then you can increase your price points, and you can have more clients. But I think another important thing to acknowledge is that when the world changes pretty rapidly, which it is now, and most likely will continue to, it creates a lot of emotions within us as human beings, and we want to go to places that are safe, and that could also be brands that are safe, and in this case, brands that we trust. So in disruptive times, we go and look for brands and places where we can find trust, and that is why it's also important to be a trustworthy business. And I think we also need to highlight that the pace of development is increasing, and especially for technology. While we as human beings, we will never develop as fast as technology. We have limitations, and those we just need to address and understand. But we also need to see, okay, if this is the scenario of now and of the future, that robotics and AI and so forth will develop a lot faster than us, how can we as human beings then add something that actually has value? And here again, I want to emphasize the importance of trust in the organizations, but also creating trust with the market and with the people that are going to buy your things. Because that is something that is really hard for an AI to do, to build trust. That you need to have human beings doing. So if we can see that, okay, maybe we can't develop as fast as a robot can, but at least we have a few characteristics that are valuable. And one of them is trust. And I think we can all agree on that the world is changing. The world has always been changing, I mean, since day one. But as the change is more rapid, our perception of value, meaning in the market, customers, how they perceive our client, our services and so forth, that is also changing. at a very rapid pace. So as organizations and as human beings in these organizations, we need to address that. Okay, what was actually considered valuable before is perhaps not so valuable anymore, and how can we work with that? And I don't know if any of you have been to the States, United States of America. It's a great place if you like diversity. And in America, they have a home electronics chain called Best Buy. It's big yellow and black signs. And Best Buy, they sell what home electronics chains sell. They sell TVs, they sell audio video systems, they sell speakers, yeah, I mean, cables, everything you expect them to sell. And Best Buy lived in a world that was pretty safe for a while, but then as Amazon came along, Amazon also started to sell the same kind of products, and they offer something that was perceived as valuable for the clients. They offered home delivery for free. They also offer a wide variety of services and a low price point. So Best Buy and the management team, they were thinking, okay, how can we also create some kind of value which is in line with the changes of the world? And they built several different scenarios. They had management consultants. And what they did was that they had this one idea that they were going to build their own homepage, but that would just be too expensive to drive traffic to. What they came up to was the end solution was that, no, we're going to keep our stores and we're going to take the parts that people actually appreciate from Amazon and put them into our stores. But also find what Amazon lacks and then emphasize on that. So they rebuilt their stores so there was a bigger offer and there were more things to choose between. And you could have home delivery and all those things. But what they also find as a competitive advantage was that they had staff in the store that consumers actually could talk to. And when they did evaluations afterwards, they realized that what the customer felt was that they trusted the people working in the store a lot more than recommendations on Amazon. So having people present in a store, it actually increased the perceived value. So technology can do a lot of really cool things, but sometimes it's also great to have human beings, and of course adapting to your surroundings, but looking and highlighting what human beings also can do. And I haven't been in America or in a Best Buy for a few years because I had kids. 5 years ago, I had one kid, and then 3.5 years ago, I had another kid. And this slide is not about having kids, but it relates very much to having kids because once you, I don't know if any one of you have kids, but once you have a child, things will never be the same. But even though things will never be the same, we must all adapt. That goes very much for being a parent, because yeah, your whole world is shaken around, and all of a sudden you have like someone to take care of, but you still want to go about your life as you always have done, but you can't because you must adapt to the new surroundings. And this also goes for how the world is changing now and how things are changing for corporates and for organizations. We know that a week from now, life will be different than it is now. Then the question is, how can we as human beings adapt to what will happen in a week? In order to do that, we must understand where the world is going. And there are several variables that will come into play when you have that kind of discussion. But I think it's important to try to find the ones that you actually can affect. And their trust is one of those things that you can actively work with to build both internally but also externally. Because trust is in a way related to truth, I would say. And this is an interesting question that you can ask yourself. What is your truth as a person, but also as an organization that you work for, in a world that is extremely polarized? We can see what's happening in Israel at the moment. That is one very polarized country at the moment, where the truth about what's going to be the best solution for that country is very divided. The same in America, where in the States, where it's like pretty obvious that people have two different perceptions of the truth. And if we talk about climate change, the same goes there. We have different truths in different parts of society. And when the world is at a more polarized stage and also is a lot more complicated because there are no easy solutions, I think it's important for you as a brand to try to figure out, okay, what is going to be your truth in this polarized world? Because if you don't need to take like an active stand, but you need to have a story on how you see the world, because that is one of the few ways that you can actually connect with people today. When we scroll in our feeds, it goes super fast, and if you don't say something that people actually can relate to, that resonates with their truth, then it's going to be pretty tricky to get them to interact with you. So, and this is a challenge that I think many brands haven't thought about too much in the past, because many have not really needed to take a stand. But with starting, I would say, with climate change, many companies kind of had to take a stand, and they were investigated a lot more than previously. We can see within the retail vertical now, a lot of fast fashion companies such as H&M, Zara, and the Chinese Shine, they are really questioned by consumers because they actually motivate us to buy more cheap clothes, which is not really a great thing for the environment. So you as a brand also need to find your story in this world and try to find out what resonates with you, what can you actually say that you believe in, and how will you make your clients also believe in that, or actually agree on that. This is a super big question, but I think if you don't acknowledge that it is a polarized world, then it will also be challenging to find ways to communicate, and also out of a employee branding perspective, having people who want to work with you. Because these are two, I wouldn't say giants, but on the girl in the raincoat is Greta Thunberg. She's actually also from Sweden. She started a big movement with Fridays for Future, and she's been all over the world talking about how climate change will destroy the future for her generation. And on the other side, you have Donald Trump. He has a total different opinion on climate change and on other things as well. And since there is no objective truth, really, you must also understand that your potential target groups or your people buying from your company, they can be pretty much anywhere in between. But it's kind of hard to have, for you as a brand, to be trustworthy if you try to have like two different opinions. So you need to find an opinion that actually resonates with you and that you can build on and that you can communicate. And this is something that we must discuss internally, also to to set what is our truth, because if you have that story on what you believe is the truth, then you can also start communicating to gain trust from from the people in your surroundings, and also from potential customers and so forth. And one great example of this, of having a clear message, comes from Patagonia. Patagonia sells outdoor lifestyle wear. I'm pretty sure you all heard about them. They have been super consistent with how they try to fight climate change and what they try to do. And in that perspective, it is super clear that they are backing Greta Thunberg in this case. Customers don't really need to argue about that. And what's interesting with Patagonia is that they are in an industry that is not the best for out of a climate perspective, because manufacturing clothes is not the best thing you can do for the climate, but they still managed to gain a lot of trust because they had a clear story, and they also acted on that. So again, building trust is, as I said initially when I spoke about my mom, it's about creating an emotional aspect that people feel that you want them well or do a good thing. I assume that none of us really truly know how Patagonia operates. We don't know what kind of carbon footprint they have, but still we believe, or we sense very much, that Patagonia is an organization that wants what's best for the environment. So that is one thing, creating emotions. And the other thing is the rationale, and that is actually also showing that you care about these topics. In the Patagonia case, the founder of Patagonia, he donated away all his money to fight for the environment, and that is a very rational thing to do if you want to prove that you have trust within this area. So if you want to increase trust with both internally but also externally, which is important, to figure out, okay, how can we create an emotional bond towards our customers, and how can we also show that we actually not only do this because we want to be greenwashing ourselves, but that we actually also are believing in this. And I think frequency is an important thing here. It's because you need to do it over and over again, because you don't build trust in just one campaign. Because today we have about 1.6 seconds. That's the average length that a post on Instagram or Facebook is being viewed. So you have about 1.6 seconds to talk about stuff that really matters, because that's what you want to do in order to reach out, and in order to highlight your understanding of these topics. An example that you see here is from a shoe company called Tom's, and their original business idea is a good one from the beginning, because for every pair of shoes they sell, they also donate one pair to people who need them. And if you go into their Instagram account and check, they rarely talk about their shoes. Instead, they talk about labor conditions in the stores. They talk about the carbon footprint. They talk about things that they do for the environment. So they constantly talk about that. And I think working conditions is something that's one thing that has just for the past few years been highlighted. Where are these things actually manufactured? And was it under legally okay conditions? So there are so many things that you can talk about today, and at least in Sweden where I am, Mental health is a big topic. The environment, of course, is a big topic. Gender equality. So there are loads of things that you can talk about, but you of course have to believe in that and believe that they are your truth, because otherwise you won't be able to build trust over time. But I want you to remember and also acknowledge that this is not something that you do in one campaign. It will take time, and it will require consistency. It will also require that you, as an organization, actually really believe in this. I did talk about the famous AI solutions before, ChatGPT and so forth, and they are, of course, really cool inventions, and so is, internet as a whole. It's really cool. But as innovation increase, we as human beings also increase our concerns. You have a clear example from GDPR, which was an effect of internet users being concerned about how their data was being processed. In the early days of internet, no one really cared about that. It was not a topic. But as innovation continues, there are new concerns which you see rising, and those you also need to understand as a brand in order to manage them. And one of the, I would say, great and not so great things with the internet is that we've been personalizing a lot of things, and users today, I think that goes both for you and for me. After using cookies for many years, we're used to having a more personalized experience. So we as users and all of your clients and all of your users, they kind of expect personalization. It's one of the great things with internet, many see. And also that we gotten so used to it, not having to log in every time and so forth. But I think we all are aware of that personalization is built on data, and data can be very sensitive. And this is an interesting data point from a survey that 43% of users would switch from their preferred brand to a second choice if the later provided a good privacy experience. So not only is personalization super important, but also a good privacy experience. And this has come as an effect, or as perhaps as a result of that we today are more we're more knowledgeable about the downsides of leaving our data. And why I bring this up is because you obviously need your client's data to run a digital business, but you must manage the data in a way that is acceptable or even perceived as good from the users, because otherwise there is a big chance that they will leave you, or they will stop giving away your data, and then you will lose one of the competitive advantages. And there are a few companies who have done efforts within this, highlighting this. One is IKEA, Swedish company. Super proud of them. They created something that they call the data promise. So it's a data promise from IKEA to us as clients. And what they did there was that they acknowledged that, okay, we need data, IKEA needs data from our customers, but they also put a very high price on being super transparent and being customer centric. So the data promise involves one saying to customers, we know that you don't really want to give away your data, but we need your data in order to create good services. But also highlighting the opportunity to, at any point, stop giving away your data as a client. And they have also done a good thing, I think, in communicating this in a very basic way. They use simple language so everyone understands, and they highlight the fact that they as a brand need data, and you as a consumer don't really want to give away data. So this is, I think, one way of building trust, and that is to acknowledge the challenging things, but also doing something to make it good. And I recommend, if you're interested in data privacy, Google IKEA data promise. There's a great video on YouTube where they explain how they think. Because when we think about trust, maybe previously we thought about like having durable products or something, but today trust is very much about being able to gather data from your users and allowing the users allow you to use the data. And if that is done right, then you will have, I would say, a great competitive advantage, because you have more data and you will still have a good relationship with your clients. I want to go back and kind of summarize this, that we live in a world of context that is very complex, and we don't know where anything is going really, but we do know that both our co-workers but also our clients, they are affected by this change, and since the world is also becoming more polarized, that is also affecting them. And to build trust in this environment, and to get a good relationship with consumers, you need to both have the emotional part, actually showing that you care, showing that you understand your consumers' concern, and acting accordingly. So you can't just say nice words. You also need to act in a way that makes customers feel that you want to do something good. And trust is something that you need to talk about, I think, on a constant basis, and it could be done in many, many ways. But in a way, it's about making your brand more human. So your users actually want to listen and pay attention to what the brands say. Because then there are endless of reports saying that if consumers trust a brand, they're more likely to buy things from it. And I think in the B2B sector, this is even more so important, because it's all about trust. It's such big investments and really big things happening. So you must build trust. And what are we going to do then? What can you do? I think it's important to look outside. So looking at the world as you see it and as your brand see it. So what are the external needs? What do you see as needs among your users or among potential clients? And then also look at yourself. What is your internal understanding of these needs? Do you have tools to make something good out of it? And then in the middle there, you find solutions. And solutions in this case can be about building trust and different ways of building trust, using your internal understanding and also based on external needs. It's just like building a new product. It's based, I mean, if you don't have any customer needs, then it's no use building that product. But in this case, when it comes to trust and the importance of actually being a trustworthy brand in a very complex world, I think there are many different solutions, and the solutions that you will create today will perhaps not be adequate a year from now. But that is why it's also super important to continuously increase and update and adapt your internal understanding, because that understanding is also what will enable the solutions. And with those words, I want to start to thank for myself. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I think it's a super interesting topic. It's a hard topic to grasp and make tangible, but I think if you go to yourself and to your, how should I say, start with yourself and see, okay, how can I build trust? What can I do to my coworkers and perhaps to my clients, and then taking that is expanding that and maybe teaching your coworkers about that, and step by step, good things will happen, because this is more of a mindset shift as well, because you need to prioritize trust over other things, and if you see that makes sense, I think you as an organization also will do it. So thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. It was great to talk to you, even if I didn't hear you too much, but maybe now I will.
Thanks so much, Simon. What a nice way to both foster trust and also do good in the world. I mean, a lot of examples that you gave also create great things in the world. If it's free shoes, if it's, battling climate change, things like that, it's just a fantastic way to work. For everyone who's listening in, now is the time to ask us your questions using the Q&A channel. Let us know if you have any questions for Simon. And we'll just get started with a quick one for you, Simon. You talked earlier about creating trust both internally and externally. Would you recommend to start with one? I mean, do you usually recommend starting with internal trust, then building external, or doing both at once? What would be your recommendation for a brand that's just starting out?
I think it's important for coworkers to understand why it is important with trust. Because if you just start a campaign, okay, we're going to be a trustworthy company externally, but they feel that internally they're not trusting each other, then it's soon going to fall apart. So I think starting at least understanding, even if it takes a while to build trust internally, but start seeing it as an internal movement and highlighting those topics, because then if they see the benefits of it internally, they will naturally expand it to external movements. Because I think you need to. It's one of these things you need to believe in them yourself. Otherwise, you won't be able to communicate it or live it. Starting internally, but also, of course, manifesting how could this be externally, so people have some kind of vision. Okay, what will this be like?
That's great advice. And that brings me to another question. So in the examples that you provided, it sounds like there's often a lot of alignment between the brand values and the externalization of, the trust campaign. So if we talked about Tom's with the shoes and so on, how would you recommend that companies kind of think about that or break it down? I mean, if you're a brand and you want to start doing something good in the world, creating more trust with your customers, what's the first steps that you should take to think about how to do that in an effective way, in a way that's really authentic?
That's a great question, because Tom's, for example, I mean, the whole business idea is built around being a good company. If you are not originally that kind of company, then you need to find what kind of inner values do we have, because as you mentioned, brand values. Do we have brand values that can be aligned with external needs that we can actually communicate? So I think finding small bits and pieces that people actually can buy into, and that we can feel, okay, this is actually something that we can talk about, instead of trying to pivot your whole company to being like green company or whatever, because it takes a lot of time. So finding your MVP, like what's the smallest thing that you can start to talk about to build trust. And I also really want to highlight that it doesn't really have to be like super nice thing. It could be like in the IKEA example, that it's something that is needed for your organization to thrive and also to survive. You need to have data. Like, how can we work with this in a way that kind of aligns with our other work? So it doesn't have to be saving the world things. It can also be like, okay, we need people to trust us to give us this. So yeah, different scenarios, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And how would you say that this impacts things that have to do with, for example, hiring or retention of employees? Because I'm sure that fostering trust doesn't just impact the company's growth and, their engagement with clients, but also internally how much they can attract, especially the younger generation that's, very kind of sensitive to these types of issues.
I think it's hard to see statistics from that, but I think it has a big impact because, as you say, I mean, if you manage to build trust with your clients, they will most likely stay longer because they will be more transparent in their feedback and so forth. The same, I think, goes for people that you hire. If you are transparent, it's okay not to feel 100% every day, like mental health and those kind of topics. If you discuss that in a non-difficult way, yes, then I think people will be more eager to stay. And also, if you trust internally, then you also build kind of like a tight bond that is really hard to create. But if you have that bond, people will be less likely, I think, to jump ship for a pay raise or something. They would stay because they feel like, hey, this is so important for me. I mean, it's like friendships. You don't just jump ship because you see someone else in the street that's better looking. I think. At least I hope that that's the case, and I also think, as you mentioned, with the younger generation, that are important topics. So it will be rewarded for employers that dare to take that path to be relevant.
100%. And on that high note, I just want to thank you so much, Simon, for being here with us today and for sharing your insights with us. And thank you to the audience for listening in. We're looking forward to continuing this great day and to hearing many more presentations. So thanks again, Simon, for being here with us.
Thanks, guys. Great to be here. Nice to meet you all.
This is all we got. Remember the revolution in our minds. This is all we got.
Lock me out of this life institution. I am angry and high on illusions. Yes, I hate, but it's not a solution. Try my best, but I'm just a human. Oh, we don't need to say we're sorry. We don't need to worship ever stars.